Back in 2002, there was a reader fan art competition open for fans of Oda's One Piece, where readers could submit fan art for the One Piece characters in Usopp's pirate gallery, and this one young boy submitted his fan art as a student to Eiichiro Oda, which he praised profoundly, meeting in person many years later at a New Year's event. Fast forward 10 years to the state Shonen Jump was in. Naruto had ended, Bleach was on a continuous streak of breaks during its final arc, and One Piece's pacing had started to slowly become unbearable to people reading weekly. The era of the Big Three had surely ended, and Shueisha was desperate for a new wave. That was until a new series came out of nowhere and made its place in Jump's magazine, earning a wide fanbase, an anime series, multiple movies, and a live-action movie in talks. Since then, it has blown manga sales and everyone's expectations out of the water when the series first serialized. Created by that same young boy from 2002. His name was Kohei Horikoshi, and that manga series was My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia enjoyed its success for many years, and to date is one of the only few mangas to have sold over 100 million copies. Jump to the present day, however, things have changed for the worse. The adaptation being heavily criticized, the constant push for forced movies, the series losing its credibility, and tragically, the main author constantly attacked and bullied by his own fanbase over ships they want to be canon or choices he decided to make for the benefit of his story. So, what went wrong? What caused MHA's downfall? How did a series that was once beloved by the vast majority slowly evolve into something shrouded in negativity and hatred? Well, there are a few factors for this, so let's talk about it. But first off, I want to give this series its flowers. The manga sales are still as high as ever, that's never been a concern, and in fact, gradually has been increasing as you can see. My Hero's artwork is outstanding, brimmed with personality and honestly just gradually evolves. The art style changes over the course of its run, starting from a bubbly, more innocent, angular art style to something more refined, rigid, whilst not hesitating to make it dark and gritty in certain moments, which does fit the tone of the later arcs. From chapter 1 to chapter 400, the artwork has been ridiculously outstanding. Horikoshi's use of scale, backgrounds, and character designs are exponentially well done. But what really amazes me is how Horikoshi depicts emotion through his drawings from the use of facial expressions, pushing the emotion out of his characters to the fullest extent. Joy, anger, sadness, shock, desperation. He displays not only how a character is feeling, but how strong they are feeling said emotion, whether it's made obvious or done subtly. It's crazy to think he can produce artwork of this quality week in and week out. His artwork is truly the best of Weekly Shonen Jump, and anybody who disagrees is insane. His paneling, however, isn't great, especially during the fight scenes. It can be quite difficult to follow through and to understand what is happening. It can get too busy, like he wants to add so much to the panels as if he has no other space. This is made more notable in the recent chapters, despite aiding to his storytelling at times. To touch upon this aspect more, My Hero had such a strong beginning to its story. Season 1 did a great job at setting the foundation of the world and the characters. Everything just made sense. Season 2 elevates this through its wonderful sports festival arc and the storyline between Shoto and his father Endeavor, and later the whole Todoroki family happens to be one of my personal favorite plot threads for this series. Followed by the equally amazing Hero Killer Stain arc, for the first time in the series, showing us the corrupted system of the heroes, giving us our main villains. Then we jump to the first half of Season 3, Kamino Ward, where the villains invade the camp, ending in the cataclysmic All Might versus All for One. And this is the first hit My Hero takes. This fight, for example, I think would have been received better if at the conclusion of this fight, All Might dies. Not that I necessarily dislike the character, but not only would it have been a somber, epic conclusion to the number one hero, and who I consider to be the main character up until this point, it would have also greatly impacted the world of MHA. Him surviving was the turning point of the story, and not in the way that you'd think. There are fans who criticize My Hero for how Horikoshi fumbles on displaying a dark tone and for the story structure, which I can agree with. It's quite jarring how the tone shifts from one arc to the other very drastically. We go from an arc that displays the horrifying terror of the League of Villains and the downfall of the greatest hero, to the kids getting their licenses, to the emotional character-driven fight between the two key characters from the beginning, followed by a rescue mission for a child used for inhumane experiments by the leader of the Mafia gang for his quirk drug organization, to a festival, to an arc showcasing Endeavor's redemption as the new number one and to his family, to another exam arc, to an entire arc devoted solely to the League of Villains, to another training arc. Like, you know what I mean? It's a constant roller coaster of tonal shifts that is more distracting than anything. I know it's a show premise about kids going to school to become heroes, but that doesn't mean he should ignore most of his other plot threads. It's not interesting seeing these arcs all the time, to be frank. It isn't until season 6 where Horikoshi maintains a consistent tone for the rest of his manga. Doesn't help that the anime didn't do this stretch justice at all. For context, I watched the anime up until season 4, then just read the manga from there. It's kind of ironic how the anime was great in the beginning, season 2 still being its best season to date, and then it becoming bad from the midpoint of season 3. This isn't reflecting what I just talked about, no. This is due to Studio Bones' poor adaptation and their obsession with doing multiple movies. There's nothing wrong with studios and IPs wanting to release movies, it's the way that MHA has done it is the problem. My Hero movies are worked on and released as the seasons are airing, not before or after, when that be the logical result. This sacrifices the needed resources and quality for the anime's adaptation, as most of the studio's best staff are most likely working on the movies. Lack of atmosphere and seasonal compositing. Key moments from the manga are cut out, entire arcs are switched around, unneeded filler episodes are implemented simply just for promotion. No other season was a bigger victim of this than season 5 and the My Villain Academia arc. Season 6 and season 7 so far has said to be a major step up from years of horrendous adaptation, but who cares at this point? Let's discuss the elephant in the room, Izuku Midoriya, Deku. I've never been a fan of Deku. It's not because of the fact that he cries a lot that I have issue with. He's honestly just a boring main character. Comparing him to the newer main characters in Jump to the likes of Yuji Itadori, Denji, and Soshiro Hoshina, he just falls flat in comparison. The only time I found myself caring about Deku and actually found him to be a good character was all the way back in season 1. Past that point, I gradually didn't care. His dream was to always become a hero like his idol, All Might, but never could, as he was one of the only few people in MHA's world to not have a quirk, later then receiving it from said idol. An aspect I loved about early My Hero was the contrast between All Might and Deku with their usage of One for All. All Might was able to use his power fine without much physical toll because his body for the most part could handle it, whereas every time Deku uses it, he gets badly bruised up and is left with broken bones. His body clearly isn't made for this power, therefore it's always a gamble when Deku has to use it. Seeing how he would use his calculated mind to not rely on his destructive quirk kept me intrigued and was an aspect I really loved about Deku. Once he figures out a solution to use his quirk at small doses through full cowling and later discovers he has legs, he kinda loses that spark that made him unique. He loses that sense of originality. Deku is in no doubt a reactive character. His only goal from here on out is to save as many people as he can, an endless cycle for Deku to constantly react to circumstances hindering this goal, unable to be proactive, making his character trapped. Bakugo, on the other hand, who I personally prefer more, I'd argue is a proactive secondary character. Adding on, I feel that Bakugo is the best example of character development / progression in My Hero. Bakugo at the beginning of the series and Bakugo now feel like two completely different characters, whereas Deku hasn't had much progression. In fact, he's stagnated since obtaining One for All, only gradually becoming more uninteresting. The 7 quirks thing only pushed this further. This was nothing more than an attempt to power scale Deku higher. He already has the strongest quirk given to him. This was just unneeded. As an underdog, he at least had something worth rooting for. Now he's just given godly powers for no apparent reason. Despite all the low points, despite everything, My Hero Academia not only revived and revitalized the shonen genre, but brought in a new age and brought new life for the anime industry. I can guarantee you, for so many newer anime fans, their very first anime, if not one of their first, was My Hero. If you watched anime, you knew what MHA was, and if you didn't, you at least heard of its name. Yes, I know how their fanbase can be. I hear time and time again from my friends and a wide majority all over how its fans' toxicity has ruined the series for them. And because of that, MHA unfortunately has been given a bad rep that stuck with the series for many years. Seeing the reception to the final war arc in the manga was interesting. Some hated it, some mildly enjoyed it, some comparing it to Naruto's war. For me personally, whilst I hated how drawn out it was and hated some of the choices, the moments that really hit. It reminded me of early My Hero, and certain themes ended comfortably. After so long, I had faith in Horikoshi's writing ability again. I always knew he had it in him to write great material when inspired. Through it all, I stuck with MHA to the very end, and I'm glad that I did. I loved My Hero Academia. Part of me still does, in fact. Hell, I even abridged the beginning of it on another channel. I'm still a hardcore MHA fan, even if I don't blindly, unconditionally love everything about it. Grateful that Jump gave MHA the chance to take its time with its ending through the extended epilogue and not allowing it to be rushed, giving this series a deserving conclusion. Kohei Horikoshi is definitely one of the most talented artists and character designers in the world, despite everything. And whatever he throws his hand at next, I will definitely check it out, because he made one of the most gigantic mangas of all time and still is a highly regarded mangaka. As I write this video, there's only one chapter left, and this is by far the most important chapter in a long while. This may have been a series that's gotten you into anime, this may have been a series that's gotten you back into anime. So whilst I personally and many think that it's slowly fallen off over the years, if you don't think so, if My Hero is your favorite anime/manga and love it to the fullest, then screw the complaints, screw the fanbase shipping wars, screw the anime's quality, screw me even. Go beyond and plus ultra with your love for this series. No amount of criticism can take that away. Whether MHA has at the very least a satisfying conclusion or an ending that destroys any credibility the series has left, I want you to know and never forget the impact My Hero Academia has had on the anime community and the impact it has had on me personally. My Hero Academia's final chapter isn't just an end of a standard manga series, it's an end of an era. Thanks for watching.
世界で描いても掴んでもまた